What the fuck did I just read? Today I'm going to be reading Dipperr Goes to Taco Bell. Like, I have not read this before. I do not know anything about this. All I know from the person that sent it to me is that it's a horrible shit show. I don't know what to expect. It could be just something normal. Maybe it's something actually from the depths of the internet, and whoever wrote it should be in a mental asylum. Like, who knows? Who knows? So, let's see. Rating, MA, mature audience. Oh, I got a bad feeling. I got a bad feeling about this already. Alright, summary. Dipperr decides to go to the town's Taco Bell, and he will eat a lunch he will never forget. Never forget. It was a normal day in Gravity Falls, Oregon. Well, as normal as Gravity Falls gets. Anyways, Dipperr Pines was reading his book, and Mabel, his twin sister, was wondering what he was doing. Dipperr, are you gonna keep your nose bjard in that strange book of yours all summer? You gotta go out, have an adventure, Mabel exclaimed. Fuck's sake, fuck's sake. Not now, Dipperr said quietly. I'm trying to decode this. He was looking at a cryptogram that said, Dipperr was officially stumped. He could not figure out what it meant, and it seemed very mysterious to him. Grunkle Stan is gonna take us to the diner for lunch, Dipperr, Mabel exclaims. Dipperr, however, was not in the mood for the diner. He was publicly humiliated the last time he went, and he thought the food wasn't very good anyway. Maybe I don't want to go to the dinner, Dipperr said solemnly. I want to go somewhere else. But there's really nothing else in town, unless you count a Taco Bell near the forest, Mabel replied. Taco Bell? Dipper's ears perked up. He had never eaten at Taco Bell before, same. And ever since last week, he had a craving for Mexican food for some reason. Why don't we go to Taco Bell today? Dipperr asked. Taco Bell? Grunkle Stan questioned. Why do you want to go there? It smells like the bathroom when it gets clogged. I had my heart set on pancakes, Mabel moaned. Listen, you can go to Taco Bell if you want to, but don't come crying to me when you smell like expired onions. Fine, I will, Dipperr said harshly. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Grunkle Stan said. But as he was exiting the mystery shack, the door hit him on the way out. Said Grunkle Stan. He was laughing. So anyways, Mabel and Grunkle Stan went to the diner, while Dipperr tried to find a Taco Bell. He had brought with him his book and a couple bucks, but finding the Taco Bell was harder than he had previously thought. He had been looking around town for what seemed like days, and the mysterious book wasn't helping him either. Until he saw a flicker of a sign in the forest. He went into the forest. Why would there be a Taco Bell in the forest? Dipperr asked himself. After hiking for about an hour, Dipperr finally got to the Taco Bell, but it sure didn't look like any Taco Bell he'd ever seen. It was surrounded by a barrage of giant oak trees in an open field completely different from the rugged terrain of the Oregon forest. The open field was covered with at least 3 layers of pine needles, which got the attention of Dipperr. He stuck his hand into the pine needles. Ow! Dipperr shouted. A pine needle poked him. It hurts. The restaurant, Taco Bell, looked like a silo, sort of. Well, it was very cylindrical. The outside had rusty picnic tables and looked like no one used them at all. Dipperr walked up to the restaurant's door. Should I go in there? Dipperr asked himself. I'm starting to have second thoughts. Why is there a small, desolate Taco Bell in this forest, miles from nearest road? But I guess it's my only option. Mabel and Grunkle Stan are probably done with lunch right now. And they were. Mabel wondered why Dipperr hadn't come back yet, but Grunkle Stan didn't give a damn. So, Dipperr entered the restaurant, but he was relieved to see that the interior was normal, except for its high ceiling. There were also no customers inside, but Dipperr thought that was normal, considering how the franchise was so isolated. He went up to the counter. There was only one cashier working the registers. A very old, slightly deaf, bored out of his skull cashier. Dipperr decided what he wanted to order. Then Lan approached the register. Excuse me, we only got tacos! The cashier interrupted. Okay, I guess I'll have a taco then. What did you say? The cashier yelled. I said I want a taco! Dipperr yelled back. Okay then, the cashier said, then went in for the back for a few minutes. When he came out, he was carrying Dipper's taco. That'll be $1, the cashier said. Dipperr gave him the money and went to sit down at the least grimiest table. He bit into the hot, spicy, juicy taco filled with thick, pure meat, mild, tantalizing black beans, and sour, fluffy sour cream. He enjoyed a single bite of that perfectly cooked taco and still tasted it in his mouth after he swallowed it. But as he was about to bite into it a second time, he felt a churning movement inside his body, something that he had felt often. Uh-oh, Dipperr said, then rushed to find the lavatory. Man, that really went through me, Dipperr said to himself. For some reason, the bathrooms were hidden in the corner, far from the counter, and far from the table he was sitting at. When he walked in, he found that the bathrooms were surprisingly clean for a fast food restaurant anyway. And Dipperr found this suspicious. Suspicious. And Dipperr found this suspicious. All of the stalls were full, and no one was using the urinals. But right on cue, someone walked out of one of the stalls. Dipperr didn't pay much attention to who was walking out, but he was wearing all black, and had a plastic bag with him. Dipperr just had to go. Unfortunately, he didn't make it in time. He checked his pants and found the worst of all. Diarrhea, Dipperr said. Yeah. He was about to leave the stall when he noticed a bulge in his pants. He touched the bulge, and once he touched it, he knew exactly what it was. It was an erection. He found himself completely aroused after touching it, and started to do it some more. Eventually, he was ready to hardcore masturbate. He didn't know what was arousing him, but he knew he was aroused. He took off his blue shorts and his soiled underwear, revealing his medium-sized, but not small, penis. The tip was bright and red like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Dipperr started to yank his Johnson harder and faster. The 5-incher was getting pumped. Dipper's sword hand started to feel bits of pre-cum on his dry fingers. Eventually, the medium-sized dick couldn't take it anymore. The burst in an explosion of cum. The cum got all over the walls and toilet. And Dipperr felt proud. He had creamed himself for the first time, but he was upset that it was not over Wendy. No, Dipperr thought. All this is not enough for me. I need to release all of this. With his erection still active, Dipperr began yanking his penis again. It was much quicker, and Dipperr cummed quicker. It was a bigger release than last time, and it began to rain Dipperr seed. Dipperr felt more proud than last time, his heart about to burst from all the droplets of cum falling down from the ceiling. He felt as happy as he felt on the day of the first snowfall of the year. He stuck out his tongue to taste the cum, shiny from the faulty fluorescent lighting in the bathroom. He tasted it, and he thought it was one of the best tasting things in the world. Better than the largest chocolate bar, better than the rarest pig, and better than the taco he was having earlier. By now, he couldn't stop. He couldn't leave now and fucking hell. By now, he couldn't stop. He couldn't leave now and miss out on this great masturbation adventure. He wanted to taste the cum. He scraped a handful off of it and stall and put it in his... He wanted to taste the cum. He scraped a handful of it off of the stall and put it in his dirty, wet mouth. He grabbed another, and another, and another. He was getting more aroused by consuming the cum, and he released another load. So that's where it's all coming from, Dipperr said to himself. Cum all over his face and teeth. Dipperr came up with a solution to get a more hardcore adult masturbation experience. He was going to put it into action. He tilted his head down, sat down on the cum-covered ground. Dude, this is some next level shit. Like, oh my freaking bloody Jesus. He tilted his head down, sat down on the cum-covered ground, grabbed his hardened Johnson and stuck it into his mouth. Once it was firmly in, Dipperr began to suck on a very hard rod. He sucked it like the lollipop he got at the country fair a while back. It tasted a lot like it too. The legs were so expertly over his shoulder that he could have been a gymnast. The more he sucked on his hard dick, the more his aroused legs shook. Eventually, just when he was going to give out, he came into his mouth. He came in his mouth. It was the best thing he ever experienced, and kept on performing fellatio on himself. As he was stimulating himself orally, he accidentally fell over to his side. He broke from his penis and cummed on the floor. The floor was covered in the floor was covered in so much of Dipper's cum that he started to make a snow angel into cum. Or a cum angel. He was eating some in the process. But then, he looked to his side, and immediately became so hard that the red tip was touching his short pubic hair. He saw what was causing it. He saw his underwear, covered in dark brown feces. He held up his underwear, which was covered in a cum-filled floor, and marveled at its erotic beauty. The feces were so beautifully ejaculated, so smooth in its sticky brownness, so perfectly they fell in Dipper's white hands. He wanted his shit. He held a brown underwear like a fish on a lure, and put his sticky white lips into the sticky brown feces. His tongue was rubbing the crap all over his tiny whites, making his mouth all a brownish white mess. He was biting into the shit and sucked it into his mouth. It was more stimulating than ever before. He now knew that he didn't need Wendy, or Mabel, or any of the other girls in Gravity Falls. All he needed was a big pile of the shit. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my... I'm just like, I just can't even. He took a scoop of the feces. He had a lot of diarrhea, and began to spread it over his dick. Every time he spread the crap, he was getting more and more aroused. Once his dick was completely brown, he came again. It filled up all the spots in his stall that weren't covered in Dipper's cum. Once again, Dipperr took big scoops of cum and consumed it in large gulps. Now, Dipperr had to put the brown sticky feces all over his penis again, and boy, did he do a good job. The brown stuff was all over his external genitals and his testicles. He had cummed a few times here and there. Now his beautiful brown genitals needed to be cleaned. But Dipperr didn't have any cleaning supplies, so he had to suck the shit off. He brung his erection up to his mouth and began to suck. This time he made it very clear to lick the feces off of his tongue. As soon as the tongue touched his dick, he cummed. He was having the most fun he ever had in a bathroom stall and forgot who he was, where he lived, where he was, or what he was eating. All that was on his mind was a sweet cum. He just thought of a great idea. Dipperr took a scoopful of diarrhea and a scoopful of cum and put it in the toilet. He flushed it, but before it went all the way down, he grabbed a wet pile of shit and cum and stuck it into his mouth. Dipperr was consuming all of the shit, cum, and toilet water, and it tasted great! He kept on doing it for God knows how long, and one of the times, he hit his head against the toilet rim. Dipper's brain must have been knocked out of place at that time, because this time, instead of putting the shit and cum in his food hole, he started to lather it on his penis again. He wanted more of his Johnson, but that would be a fatal mistake. Once it was covered again, he put it in his mouth and began sucking, but did it too hard. As he was sucking and coming, he accidentally bit on its dick. As soon as he tasted the blood, he broke out of coitus and saw his lacerated penis. He saw a mix of blood and cum coming out of it, like AA lava, and his erectile muscle pointing out. Dipperr grabbed it and grimaced in pain. He winced at it and looked horrified. He snapped out of it all and tried to figure out a solution to the castration. He put some more diarrhea and cum on it, but that didn't stop the bleeding. Dipperr spit out a piece of dick that he bit off and tried to reapply it, but it didn't work. No matter how many times he tried to reattach it, they all failed. He put more of his reproductive fluids on a castrarian, but they only made a penis swell up like the good-eared blimp. Dipperr was licking the blood off to try to stop it, but the blood was coming faster than he could lick. He was now in ultimate pain and felt nothing like this. He screamed as loud as he could and felt like no one could hear him. He was screaming louder and louder, saying, "Help! I bit my dick off." He was going insane. He started to bang against the stall, screaming help as loud as he could yell. After a full 5 minutes with a large mix of blood, cum, and feces on the floor, he was banging his head against the stall. The bang was louder than the loudest thunderstorm, and yet no one came for help. Dipperr was alone in the bathroom, alone in the stall, alone with his beloved dick. Now to near death, and unfortunately, he was near death. After one final blow to the head, the now screaming Dipperr was now as silent as Christmas Eve. He fell to the floor, eyes turned skywards, and fell into a mix of his own blood, cum, and feces. At the mystery shack, Mabel was feeling very worried about Dipperr, so she went off and tried to find him. She went off into the forest first. She knew where it was, and surprisingly, got there in less time than Dipperr. As she entered the newly cleaned doors, she immediately noticed the one spit-in taco on one of the tables, and immediately knew it was Dipper's. As she entered the newly cleaned doors, Mabel rushed into the men's bathrooms. She liked to use their urinals, and rushed into her random stalls. It was her brother's. Mabel looked at how messy the stall was, and how it was used to do the deed. Her pink sneakers were sticky from stepping into the reddish-brown mess of liquids. She walked around the messy stall for a bit, but then saw the most horrid sight she could imagine. Dipper's corpse. Mabel was welled up into tears at the sight of it and began to cry. As she was crying, she sat down in a pile of the blood, feces, and cum and looked at Dipper's lifeless face. It was beautiful, as the smooth facial features complemented his circle of cum around his lips. "Oh, Dipperr," Mabel said through her tears. "Let me clean the white stuff off of your lips." Mabel brought Dipper's head up to hers, and she kissed him. After pulling out of the kiss, Mabel enjoyed it, and so she kissed him again. She didn't want to let go of Dipperr, not now. Not when he had just died. He was her brother, after all. She held Dipper's naked corpse in her arms, and she felt a tingly feeling in herself, and secret dirty sigh. No one would care if we did it right. He is dead, and I know I would know in this restroom stall, Mabel thought. She immediately came up with an answer. She pulled Dipper's head up to her head and kissed him again. Only it was a French kiss. Once Mabel was done, she put the body on the floor. Then Mabel got down on the fluid-covered floor too. Mabel started to go on a kiss-crazy frenzy with Dipperr that made it look like Dipperr was alive. Tongue went into Dipper's deceased mouth, scraping the feces and cum off of the roof of Dipper's mouth. Mabel was shaking even more now, like her tongue was touching Dipper's. She unzipped her jeans, slowly slipped them off, and then threw them at the wall. They stuck there from the cum. Mabel reveals her nice, clean, exposed virgin vagina. She took Dipper's corpse, not noticing the eternally bleeding penis, and brought it closer to the cervix. She rubbed her clitoris for arousal purposes before she stuck it in. And once the dick was firmly in, she finally felt joy in her life. She loved the feeling of losing it to her dead brother's body, and started to get the oddest feeling. She lost it. She finally lost it. She squealed in happiness, and started to French kiss Dipperr harder. Her tongue almost touched Dipper's uvula. She kept holding onto his lacerated dick in her vagina and sloshing her tongue all around Dipper's mouth. She kept pulling in and out with Dipper's steak. Blood was getting on her urethra walls, not noticing one bit. She did not want to leave the body, not now. She will kill herself if it could mean they'd be in coitus forever. If only Dipperr could kiss her back. After what seemed like hours, it wouldn't fit in. Mabel finally looked down at a now pretty messed up penis. Mabel couldn't look away at it. It was now swollen to the size of her head, a whole mix of rainbow colors and still spewing lifeless cum. It was now... Mabel vomited on it, which only made it worse. It grew bigger and bigger. "Oh, Dipperr," she said softly. Then Mabel started to scream. She was horrified at the sight of it and started to barf again. She tried to put a giant mix of blood, cum, vomit, and feces on the dick, but it didn't work. She tries to suck it all off, but found herself enjoying the sucking and the taste of Dipper's penis blood. She kept on sucking on it, tasting the blood, and touching the fondly Dipper's dead erectile muscle. She was ecstatic. She was more happy than she had ever been, more happy than she was before. As she was squealing with delight, the stall door started to open and crack. Mabel took notice of this. "Huh?" she asked. The door started to open more. It wasn't locked. Mabel started to get nervous. She didn't want to go to jail for necrophilia. She was only a child who bit off more than she could chew. She got too ahead of herself after lusting after her twin brother for so long. If it was the police, she had no hope. She hoped it was just another Taco Bell employee who would listen to her and help her out. The stall door finally burst open. Standing in front of it was a man dressed in black. He had a Taco Bell logo sewn on the left side of his fleece jacket. He was wearing squeaky shoes that squeaked across the bathroom floor. He was wearing dark sunglasses. The mysterious man walked up to the two of them slowly. Mabel stood up on her feet, fear and blood on her face. The man stared at Mabel for a long time until he finally said, "Are you supposed to be in this bathroom, young lady?" Mabel was shaking in horror now. She turned to face Dipper's naked, violated, dead body, and turned to face the man again. "Mister, I didn't intend to do this to my brother," Mabel said, shaking with tears in her eyes. The man brought himself closer to Mabel's face. "Sir, you're at my personal space," Mabel tried to manage. The man was inspecting a red spot on Mabel's cheek. After several seconds, the man touched the spot, trailed his finger in it, and put the finger in his mouth. "Blood," the man whispered to himself. "What did you say, sir?" Mabel asked him, not understanding what he was saying. "Little girl, do you know what this is on your cheek?" the man asked. Mabel repeated what the mysterious man did to her cheek, and said back to him, "It's blood. And with the blood being on your cheek, have you developed, shall we say, a desired taste for it?" The man asked back. Mabel did not notice the retractable chisel in his right hand. Yes? I didn't mean to, I just... Shh. The man quieted her. "If you liked the addicting taste of it, why didn't you say so?" And without warning, the man cut her across the chest with the chisel. She screamed out of pain of it. Blood started to pour out the diagonal cut fast, almost covering her stomach. "You can lick that up. Your blood probably tastes better than that kid's," the man said, pointing to Dipperr. Then the man gave another cut across her face. She screamed again, louder this time. "Now you can get the blood close to your face, and just to make sure you're silent," the man then slit her across the neck. She could not scream this time. The man went into her neck and pulled out 3 vocal cords. The man stretched the cords out. He jump rope with them while slashing Mabel across the face several times. When her face was cut so many times that her nose fell off, the man decided it was time for the scalping. He took out a bigger knife and slammed it right above Mabel's eyebrows. The man gripped the knife's handle still in her face and began to make a deep cut. The man put all his strength into it because he decided to make the hardest part first. He tried to do it right on the skin, but sadly did not do the job he liked. Mabel's head was now topless, the top of her skull exposed and violently cut so that you could see her brain inside the skull. Took out pieces of muscle and flesh was still attached to Mabel's hairy scalp, so the man cut them off. The scalp was now thin as skin and still full of Mabel's hair. He hung the scalped scalp up on a whore on the door. It would be his prize, something he kept for himself. Now the man prepared for the rest of the body. What he wanted to do next was to make it rain. Not water as you might think, he wanted to make it rain something else. He got down on Mabel's blood-covered chest, grabbed her not fully developed breast, and began to cut off Mabel's nipples. Once he was done, the blood started to come out, like old faithful geyser. He was amazed by the sight of the fountain of blood, and began to dance around in the stall, stepping in all the fluids that were on the floor. When the blood was starting to flow a little less slowly, the man moved on to the legs. The man hung Mabel's nipples next to the scalp. The nips were his prize too, and started to cut Mabel's legs. He started to cut faster than a race car driver on a smooth asphalt track. The cuts kept on appearing on her kneecaps until the calf bone was exposed. By that time, her lower legs and her body was only attached by a thin string of cartilage. Then the guy moved on her toes, with the knife as sharp as knife. He cut every one of her little toes off. Mabel's body was losing so much blood that she started to flatten out. The place where it was mostly coming out of was her toes. The toe blood was making a sea of red on the floor. The man, now with his Taco Bell fleece jacket splattered with red on it, now dug the knife into Mabel's left foot. He began to make another cut, similar to what he did to her scalp, and began to cut the skin off of the foot. The cut was much better than what he did to the scalp. He did the same to the other foot, and then hung the skin up next to the scalp. Mabel's feet were now just a big mess of flesh, muscle, blood, and nerves. Mabel, who was still alive, face was now completely exposed to all the cuts she was getting. Her mouth hanging open like a gaping person. The blood was already covering her chest, and since the man actually had a soul, he didn't want to subject the little girl to the misery she was about to endure. So, he took the long knife and stabbed her in the middle of her chest, where her heart was. Blood poured out of it, more than her cut-off nipples did. Once most of the blood was done spewing, the man got down near Mabel's bloody vagina. He very carefully took his knife, got down to the cervix, and stuck the knife blade up the hole. While in Mabel's cock cave, the man was rotating the knife, cutting up the walls of Mabel's egg chamber. The tip of it got finally inside it, and very carefully snipped every one of Mabel's fallopians. It was a hard job. He had to be very careful. He had done it many times before, but today wasn't his best day. He hasn't slit some of the sides of Mabel's vagina, cutting into the muscle surrounding it. The man was very embarrassed. Shit, hopefully no one will notice that, he said to himself. He took the knife out of Mabel's hole, with ovaries and 2 fallopians and a blood-covered blade. The man got out a big plastic trash bag and scraped a knife on it, making the contents on it go into the bag. But since the knife's handle was covered in more blood than it usually was, he accidentally let it slip, and it dug into Mabel's right shoulder. Perfect, the man said ominously. The man got out a pair of vinyl gloves and put them on his hands. He gripped the knife tightly, wanting a deeper cut than he had before. After a while, after digging and digging and digging, the man's knife got through to the other side. Once the man saw the job he did, he threw the arm in his trash bag. He felt great pride, and felt that he could easily achieve his goal now. So he went to the other side of Maple's nearly skinned body and began to cut that arm off. It was easier to do than the other one. Mabel's body was now almost flat due to all the blood loss. The man tasted some of it and thought that he should get a jar for later. Now for the legs. The man did the same with her legs, and they felt like they were getting easier to cut off each time. The legs were off, and the man threw it in the bag. Mabel's body was flat now. Almost all the blood from her body was gone. Embracing Mabel's dismembered body, he hugged it, licked the remaining blood off, and put the body in the bag. The man now had just noticed Dipperr on the floor, and figured he must have caused all this on the walls. Another one couldn't hurt, the man said to himself, and started to cut off Dipper's appendages. He did it in the same order and the same manner as Mabel's. It was done quickly, and put all of it in the bag as well. Now it was time to clean up. As you can imagine, the bathroom stall was a big mess of fluids. The man got out a big chisel and started to chisel the cum off of the walls and into the bag. It took a long while, about 2 or 3 hours. Once it was done, he needed to clean the floor, so he went outside the stall and got a mop that he had with him the whole time. He mopped the whole mess of things up off the floor and into the bag, until the floors and wall looked respectable, for a fast food bathroom anyway. The man got out with some toilet cleaner and cleaned the toilet, because it was way more messier than the stall itself. After a few minutes, the toilet cleaning was over, and the stall was as clean as a new car. It smelled like it too. The man left the bathroom, and the stall waited, ready for its next victim. The man got out of the bathroom and went into the back kitchen of Taco Bell. He got near a machine. It was an odd-looking machine. It had a crank on the side, a funnel on the top, and something shaped like a taco on the side near a conveyor belt. "Why do I have to do everything myself?" the man questioned. He hung up his blood-stained jacket and sunglasses, revealing his Taco Bell employee uniform. It was spotless. The man took the bag, and one by one, started to put the body parts into the funnel. Once the bag was half empty, he kept on putting more parts in. Only this time, he turned the crank. Once the bag was empty, out popped out 2 tacos. They weren't really tacos, really. They were actually human body parts in the shape of tacos. They went down the conveyor belt, and an employee, using spray cans, began to spray paint the body parts. Once they got to the Taco Bell tissue paper at the end of the conveyor belt, they looked like genuine tacos. The man grabbed one of the tacos, wrapped it in tissue paper, and went to the front of the counter. He handed it into the old man cashier and went back into the depths of the kitchen. "Here's your taco, sir," the cashier said to the fat customer. "You're welcome," Sue said, handing the cashier the money. What the fuck? No, seriously. What the fuck did I just read? What the fuck did I just read?
Subscribe, or else I'll instantly die.